This is All of It on WNYC. I'm Bridget Bergen. Ever since she released her first solo single in 2019, YEIDRY's star has only risen. Now YEIDRY is ready to release her debut album. Como Agua is scheduled for release this fall. The album incorporates many genres like bolero, electronica, and Dominican Paulo, and it touches on the ups and downs of familial and romantic relationships and artistic evolution. It also touches on the experience of being an immigrant and feeling like you don't exactly fit in. YEIDRY was born in the Dominican Republic but grew up in Italy. YEIDRY's here now for its special live performance. She's also performing in concert and conversation with comedian Sasha Mercy tonight at 7 p.m. at National Sawdust in Williamsburg. Tickets are free. YEIDRY, welcome to WNYC.
Hi.
It's so great to have you here. Let's start with a song. What are we going to hear first?
So the first song is not out yet. It's called Amapolas, which means poppy flower. And that's a symbol of Italy, because in there, where I grew up, there are a lot of like wild poppy flowers in the springtime.
Oh, it sounds beautiful.
Yes. Okay.
Como arena en el desierto, como aire en el pulmón, como la luz en el cielo, como al alba su lucero, así te necesito yo. Y aunque a veces siento el peso y en el pecho la presión, sí de querer pero estar lejos, de perderme esos recuerdos, de ser la hermana mayor. Pero al despertar sigo sola, para verte cuento las horas, pienso en ti y en las amapolas, solo pienso en volver, 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 volver. Cada vez que llego a la puerta de casa, siento que nada ha cambiado, todo sigue igual. La responsabilidad con la nostalgia son la gana de quedarme y de echar a volar. Son mi jardín para soñar, olor a café, un abrazo al despertar. Demasiada agua en este mar, son mi casa, no lo podría cambiar. Pero al despertar sigo sola, para verte cuento las horas, pienso en ti y en las amapolas, solo pienso en volver, 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 volver. Este mar que nos separa tiene demasiada agua para mí, y llamo casa el mismo sitio donde un día me perdí.
That was YEIDRY performing Amapolas live. She's here to perform live and preview her debut album, Como Agua, due out this fall. The album title, Como Agua, translates in English to like water.
Yes.
What does water symbolize to you in relation to this album?
To me, this album is like a healing album that I wrote for myself, really. It's also my very first album. Scary. I think I relate a lot to water. I think there's an analogy between the water and the immigrant, the way we constantly adapt and we take different shapes based on where we are, and the resilience as well. Like if you think about it, water really molds the rock. And I think it's very powerful. It's always been a very powerful and very present element in my life. So
is there something that in particular triggered this title for you, a moment or a place or an experience that made you think of it?
I think two things. One is that wherever I travel, anytime I'm next or nearby like a body of water, I feel immediately home. Maybe it's because I'm from an island, I don't know, but there's something in there that gives me comfort. And the other thing is that I went through a very rough time around like 3 years ago, like a burnout and, a separation with my former manager. And I think in that moment is, I went to the sea by myself and I feel like the water really like took me back, to life. And I started from there again. And so from there, that point, I decided to just leave with the proposal that I'm gonna just flow from now on. And since then, my life has been flowing in a very, smooth way. So,
wow.
I changed the chip.
Yeah, the flow.
The mindset.
You talked for a moment there, this is your debut album. It's going to be released in the fall. You said scared when you were talking a little bit about how you're feeling, but, is that the dominant emotions? How are you feeling as you approach its release?
No, I think it's human to have like, sorry, it's human to have, fear.
Sure.
Because it's something unknown. I don't know what's going to happen. But at the same time, I think, with the idea of flowing, and I always wanted to have a body of work of mine. So I'm basically living my dream right now, The fact that I already made an album is incredible to me. So,
how did you know, as you were going through the writing process, that the album was done?
That's very hard to know and to decide, okay, we're done. I think at some point after you write, I felt like it was hard to choose the songs, You write a lot of songs and then you're like, okay, I have to choose the songs that are going to be part of this thing.
Sure.
And I think I chose based on my instinct and my feelings, the songs that I could feel the most. Those are the ones that are part of this, album. And then at some point you just have to call it a day and be, okay, this is what I need. And some songs don't make it, even though I'm very attached to them, because I think I'm choosing what serves the message and the album and the music, not what not what I want.
Can you talk a little bit about your writing process? You talked about how this is an album that came out of, I think, of pain and then of healing.
Yeah.
So was this a cathartic process, or, how did you approach composing this album?
100%. I feel like it was very cathartic, and some of the songs came to me in a very natural way. Like Espejo, the song I wrote for my father. I didn't change any lyrics from the first day that I wrote it, and I didn't think it too much. I think it's a very natural, I hate to use that word, but it's a very organic album, Yeah. I just wrote things down that I was feeling, and I didn't try to make it something else. There's also a song in Italian, for example, that was just an a cappella it was a poem that I wrote down 5 minutes before leaving the studio. I was in Mexico City. I was really missing home, and I wrote this poem, and then I just recorded it with no melody in my head. And then after then, I just put a piano under it. So it's a very casual, not really casual because you put a lot of work in there, but it's a very flowy way. And usually I just write things on my notebook, and when I go to the studio, things come out.
You're talking about an Italian poem there.
Yeah.
You know, there are different cultural influences that come through in this album. You were, of course, born in the Dominican Republic, moved to Italy when you were 4 with your mom, who'd moved there a year earlier. How did you go about trying to preserve your connection to Dominican culture and your identity while growing up in Italy?
I think the reason why today I'm so attached to my roots, both Italian and Dominicans, is because I looked for it. I really researched where I was from. I keep in touch with my family. I feel like they are my tree that I can go back to. And traveling, sometimes when you're traveling a lot, especially for this job, sometimes you could get lost. And I feel like my family is really what keeps me grounded. Family, music, and food. It's very simple. I don't take those for granted, but those are my 3, references, I would say.
Those are good things to come back to.
Yes.
In this album, you also explore the tension of being an immigrant. You talked about how feeling like you never quite belonged in either of your homes. Yeah. How do you explain that and explore that in Como Agua?
In Como Agua, so I touch things like homesick, the feeling of feeling like homesick, the feeling of feeling lonely as well. I feel like I'm not Italian, but I'm also not just Dominican. And I moved to US 3 years ago. And so there's a loneliness in there. I feel like part of my Italian family don't know my side in Dominican Republic, or they never heard me like speaking English because they can't understand English. And same with other parts of, like Dominican family and my new friends in US. So I feel like there's like a little part of me, a little side of me that they don't know. And that's a very like lonely place that I think immigrants, have to embrace at some point and accept. So I talk about that. I talk about in Bendición, I talk about the fact that I'm like water, that I adapt constantly because it came from a survival mode. I had to when I was 4, but then it kind of became my way of living, or going through life. And then I also talk about goodbyes, Mala Mia as well. And the poem in Italian is like a sort of a goodbye letter to Italy, the way you have to leave a place that gave you so much, but in that moment of your life, you feel like there's nothing else for you to do there.
Well, let's hear another song. I think you're going to perform Mala Mia for us?
Yes.
That's great.
Le pedí a mis santos una persona como tú, y ahora que te tengo aquí entendí que esta vida no es para mí. Tanto le pedí a mis ojos que si te iban a llorar fuera por querer quedarme y no por quererte dejar. No me des tu corazón, yo no sé cuidar ni el mío. Me confiaste todo, bebé, y yo ni en mí confío. Y si anoche te abracé, no es porque te amo, tenía frío. Tú me diste todo de ti, cariño, y yo no te quiero mío. Perdón si me vi enamorada, niño, mala mía, me quedé atrapada. Estoy a una sé por qué tú sembraste un árbol en el desierto. Yo nací así, diría que es mi culpa, pero no es cierto. Mi corazón es sordo y tú insistiendo en darle un concierto. Entiéndeme que no se murió el amor, siempre estuvo muerto. No me des tu corazón, yo no sé cuidar ni el mío. Me confiaste todo, bebé, y yo ni en mí confío. Y si anoche te abracé, no es porque te amo, tenía frío. Tú me diste todo de ti, cariño, y yo no te quiero mío. Perdón si me vi enamorada, mío, mala mía, me quedé atrapada. Estoy una dios como una puñalada. Sé que me querías, pero no te prometí nada.
That was YEIDRY performing her song Mala Mia. She's here to perform live and preview her debut album, Como Agua, due out this fall. YEIDRY, this past Sunday was Father's Day in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
And I saw on Instagram that you recently shared photos of you and your father together. What does it mean to have your father back in your life today?
It's a very I don't know, it's an amazing feeling because I think reconnecting with my father, for me, it was a choice of looking for myself as well. You know, you can learn a lot from others, especially your parents, and you slowly learn about yourself as well. And I think it really helped me to have him by my side growing up. And especially during, you know, the teenage years where you're kind of lost and you don't know who you are, you know. So to me, I don't know, I'm very grateful for that.
New York City is home to many Dominicans like your dad.
Yes.
There are over 600,000 Dominican immigrants who live here. When you visit New York, what are some of your favorite ways to enjoy the city? You name check the restaurants. We know food is one of your touchstones.
I know. My father used to live in the Bronx. He now moved to New Jersey, but my first encounter with New York was the Bronx, and so I used to go get my hair done, my nails done, and eat there. I feel like any bodega, you know, in there you just have amazing Dominican food. I think New York had like a big role for, you know, in my life. So I could reconnect with Dominican food because in Italy, I just had my mom cooking Dominican food for me. And here is where I can find like a good like pollo guisado. I like this restaurant called Puerto Viejo where we went yesterday morning to eat like a mangú con tres golpes. And I like this other place called El Malecón as well. I feel like, I don't know, it's just amazing that you can go to a city and you see there's a big community, and I almost feel home, you know, in New York. That's incredible. I love this city.
Well, we are so glad to have you here. My guest is musician YEIDRY. She's here to perform live and preview her debut album, Como Agua, due out this fall. She's also performing in concert and conversation with comedian Sasha Mercy tonight at 7 p.m. at National Sawdust in Williamsburg. And I think we're going to go out on one more song. This song is Espejo, which translates to mirror. And it's about the relationship with your biological father. So let's go out on that. YEIDRY, thank you so much for joining us here on All of It.
Thank you for having me.
Hay un espejo en la casa de mi mamá que me da miedo usar. Él conoce muy bien mi fragilidad, no lo puedo aguantar. Con él yo siempre hablaba cuando consejos le pedía. Sabe lo que lloraba por un hombre que no conocía. Y cuando llegó el día le vi los ojos, vi algo familiar. Su boca de rosa, el arco de Cupido y una belleza letal. Padre, hace tiempo que no te veo. Hoy mis ojos te reconocen entero. Padre, hace tiempo que no te veo. Hoy mis ojos te reconocen entero. Cuéntame de tus dolores, de tus amores, de tu historial, de lo que te gusta comer, de los colores y dime más. Quiero saber quién eres cuando no hay nadie que te mira, verte bailar abajo la lluvia y tu alma escuchar. Y cuando llegó el día le di la mano y dejé de buscar. Recuerdo que él y yo nunca tuvimos en una tierna edad. Padre, hace tiempo que no te veo. Hoy mis ojos te reconocen entero. Padre, hace tiempo que no te veo. Hoy mis ojos te reconocen entero. De regreso a la casa de mi mamá supe la verdad. Con ese mismo espejo yo hice la paz.